r/AskReddit. Have you ever felt a deep personal connection to a person you met in a dream only to wake up feeling terrible because you realize they never existed? It's weird when I dream about someone I barely know, having a complete adventure. I wake up confused and never being able to look at them the same. This is so awkward. And then if you see them you get a feeling that you guys are friends, but in reality they have no idea who you are. Sometimes it seems like the connection in the dream was so strong that they should feel it too. It's disappointing when things are just the same as they ever were. Yet, the worst was when I was in HS and had a dream about a girl the next day. I wasn't really sure what was dream and what was reality because the dream was so vivid and plays out in school. I woke up feeling totally in love, and the next I saw her I accidentally said hi to her and she just looked awkwardly at me and said hi back, not knowing who I was. I didn't even know her name. I had just seen her a couple of times in school. Still makes me cringe. I've posted this before, and apparently people enjoyed it, so I'll post it again. I had a dream once that I was driving and came across what seemed to be an old haunted house. For some reason I decided that I needed to explore the house, as if I felt some kind of mysterious bond with the place. So I venture in and start looking around. I go up a set of very elaborate stairs, like the winding kind you'd see in a mansion, and at the top of the stairs, at the second floor landing, I see this ghost. It's a young lady, about 20, with short dark hair, in a long, white wedding dress. Her head is tilted back and there is a long gash across her throat, with blood gushing out of it, down the front of her dress. It's ghastly, so I get freaked out, naturally, and as I turn around to run she calls out to me in a very soft voice, "Please don't go, I need you. I've been waiting for so long. Don't go." I turn back around and the blood is gone and her neck is fine. I look at her and she is stunningly beautiful. She tells me that long ago we were to be wed, but on our wedding day I died in a horrible car accident. That night she went to the house that we were going to move into together and, out of grief, took her own life. Since then she had been waiting for me to come back to her, so that we could once again be together. Apparently, my spirit moved on while hers could not let go. She stayed in the house for over 100 years, keeping others away in hopes that I would someday come back to her. She hands me a knife, and I stand at the edge of the landing, looking over the banister upon the downstairs. I lean against the banister and bring the knife up to my throat. Then I wake up. To this day I still think of that dream and how real it felt. Better never to have met you in my dream than to wake and reach for hands that are not there. Atomo no Yakamachi. When I was a young child I had a dream in the same world, a kind of scary deformed version of my schoolyard. At least every week for what must have been years, there was always a little girl there who was trapped in this world, held captive by faceless evil. Over time we became the best of friends and I began plotting to save her even in my waking hours. Finally the evening came when I planned to set my plan into action, but the dream didn't come. Or the next night. No matter how hard I willed myself I was never able to go back. I was only 7 or 8 but I will always remember this experience and how heartbroken I was. How I felt that I had failed this little girl who never really existed. I had a dream when I was a very small boy about an Asian girl named So that lived next door to me and we were best friends. To be clear, she didn't exist in real life, and I'd never even seen an Asian person before. About 20 years later, I met a girl with an incredibly similar name in college, and we've been best friends for about 10 years. I love her with all my heart, and I always wonder if I would have overlooked her if I hadn't had that one dream, which is really the only dream I can remember from my childhood. Yes, this has happened to me several times. Each time was pretty much the same. I was in a very realistic world with normal people, and I was desperately, hopelessly in love with someone who felt the same way. They were everything I could have ever wanted and I'd never felt so happy in all my life. Then I'd wake up, and as soon as I realized it was a dream it would feel as though someone punched me really hard in the stomach. You know the way you sometimes feel when you get really bad news? It's terrible. The rest of the day seems like there's a haze over it. The worst part is that I've never actually been that happy in my life, and I am not certain I ever will be or if it's even possible, scumbag brain. Bingo. And the first words out of my mouth when I wake up and realize it was a dream. AWW duck. I've chosen to never marry nor have kids. Not that I don't want to get married and start a family, I just don't think I'm qualified to. It's pretty disappointing. I had a dream where I had a little daughter. We were hanging out, playing. She seemed too real even if she did look a little too much like the little girl from Chronicles of Narnia. So, for however long that dream was, I was a father, and it was awesome. Throwaway account cause this is really personal. My last semester at a certain college I was assaulted by a football player for walking where he was trying to drive. Note he was 325 pounds, I was 120 lbs. While unconscious on the ground I lived a different life. I met a wonderful young lady. She made my heart skip and my face red. I pursued her for months and dispatched a few jerk boyfriends before I finally won her over. After 2 years we got married and almost immediately she bore me a daughter. I had a great job and my wife didn't have to work outside of the house. When my daughter was 2 my wife, bore me a son. My son was the joy of my life. I would walk into his room every morning before I left for work and doted on him and my daughter. One day while sitting on the couch I noticed that the perspective of the lamp was odd. Like inverted. It was still in 3D but just wrong. It was a square lamp base, red with gold trim on 4 legs and a white square shade. I was transfixed. I couldn't look away from it. I stayed up all night staring at it. The next morning I didn't go to work. Something was just not right about that lamp. The lamp started to grow wider and deeper. It was still inverted dimensions. It took up my entire perspective and all I could see was red. I heard voices, screams, all kinds of weird noises and I became aware of pain. A ducking shit ton of pain. The first words I said were I'm missing teeth and opened my eyes. I was laying on my back on the sidewalk surrounded by people that I didn't know. Lots were freaking out. I was completely confused. At some point a cop scooped me up, walked me across the sidewalk and grass and threw me face down in the back of a cop car. I was still confused. I was taken to the hospital by the cop. Seems he didn't want to wait for the ambulance to arrive and give CT scans and shit. I went through about 3 years of horrid depression. I was grieving the loss of my wife and children and dealing with the knowledge that they never existed. I was scared that I was going insane as I would cry myself to sleep hoping I would see her in my dreams. I never have. But sometimes I see my son. Usually just a glimpse out of my peripheral vision. He is perpetually 5 years old and I can never hear what he says. Edit. 24 hours after post. Never though anyone would read this. I change a line so that it no longer seems that my 2-year-old daughter bore a child. I have never seen Inception or the Star Trek episode so many have mentioned, but I will eventually. I will not do an Ask Me Anything. A few have asked if they can write a book, screenplay, stage play, rage comic, etc. Please consider this tale open source and have fun with it. Duck. He knocked you 3 Inception levels deep. Shit, we're too deep. I had something like that. You know, in dreams that you usually dream of someone you know or some sort of nebulous person? Well, I had a dream where the girl was actually clear. I had never seen this girl before or since, but everything about her was clear. Her face, her hair, everything. And in this dream I felt madly in love with this girl. It was so much that I woke up and I could still feel the feelings of love. In fact, for almost weeks afterward, if I would close my eyes and envision the girl, then I would actually feel that love again. It still freaks me out to this day. I am curious who this girl was and why my brain created her. I used to write down my dreams when I was younger and I would recall them vividly as a result. But when I was about 13 I had a dream where I went to a prom with a really cute girl. I had never before seen this girl. My high school was different in odd and seemingly impossible ways. The hallways had walls with double doors in the middle of them. There was a long hallway that stretched across over a street to the bus garages. The school was on a corner, so this hallway went right over a road, and the bus garages were only accessed by the bus drivers and faculty, so there'd be no point to build such a thing. And the hallway was right where a classroom was in real life. I saw these modifications when the girl and I went outside to get some air because it was really hot in the dance area. To this day there isn't air conditioning in my high school. And once we were outside we were where a parking lot is in real life. But in the dream there was a large 2-story building. Large building for a small town. Anyway, so this dream was quite striking to me when I woke up. because I hated everything school related. I had absolutely no intention to going to a prom ever. And I had such a low self-esteem that I thought I'd never get a date, let alone a girlfriend. I was also near suicidal at the time. I didn't have many friends, and I couldn't see myself past that given year. This dream actually gave me hope rather than make me even more depressed. Fast forward a few years to when I'm 16 and I see that girl from my dream in real life. I about shat bricks and I immediately felt a deep connection with her. My stomach dropped, and I felt like I couldn't even breathe. It turned out she went to the same Sunday school as a friend of mine did, and later her dad wound up dating my good friend's mom. So eventually I got to meet her and hang out with her. I was really shy at the time. I wound up moving across the country for this high school sweetheart of mine, and she broke up with me a couple of years after that. That was quite a few years ago now, but since then I've lived with her as a roommate and I even took her wedding photos. Now I find it a bit odd to think of her as anything more than a friend. The cake was a lie. Lucid dreaming. Dude, with a bit of practice, you can meet all the people you've met in dreams again. Quite fun. D. Does this work as well? Though, sometimes I have dreams that seem to exceed my waking level of imagination. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.